standing in between you and karaoke, so I will make it in 10 minutes, which is my original constraint. So, all right, I'm here to talk to you guys about pair programming. And quick story, I work at Pivotal Labs. Pivotal Labs, I think we have some current employees and former employees in the audience. I used to be a non-believer in pair programming, which is really funny that I'm actually up here standing in front of you, because like exactly, wait, are we in July? So like a year and 3 months ago, if you told me that like I would pair program for a living, I would tell you you're crazy because I hate it. Ended up interviewing at Pivotal Labs and then said, okay, you seem to say you think you know what you're doing. I'm just going to give you a try because you're going to pay me while you let me try this out. And ended up in the world, and I'm pretty happy right now. So, really quickly, I kind of wanted to go into like the 5 W's, right? Who, what, where, when, why. And the starting is like, what is pair programming, which most of you know, and why am I talking about it? So let's just like talk about it through pictures. So if you are working on like the same code base, but same goals, same project, same repo, you're still standing at your own desks in these like little boxes, and it leads to a lot of wonderful things. When I worked by myself, I was very distracted. I sometimes cowboyed my own code base and decided to refactor it overnight, and that was very unsustainable. And then I would sleep underneath my desk and consume a lot of Red Bulls, which I have a heart condition, that's a terrible idea. Led to a lot of miscommunication. We maybe not work physically at each other's throats, but there's a lot of passive-aggressive behavior that sometimes happens in the workplace. And I think my least favorite one was getting stuck and banging my head against a wall and trying to figure out why my code's not working, or even better, why I pulled in the latest code and now nothing works, even though it was working fine until I did that. And then, of course, there's like the fun noob that comes in and like destroys the entire code base, right? So these are like a lot of normal, I mean, how many people relate to these things, right? Like this is like things that I used to deal with on a day-to-day basis, and I still do sometimes. But if we take these boxes and maybe like turn things around and step outside the box, we have the opportunity to pair program. This is like not exactly accurate. Usually we would recommend that you have your own monitor. At Pivotal Labs, we have 2 monitors, 1 computer, 2 keyboards, 2 mice. So you're able to kind of work simultaneously together. What does good pairing look like? It'd be the opposite of these things, obviously. I just literally took the list that I wrote, and then I just wrote the opposite words. But the nice thing is that there's like a teacher-learning symbiosis, and there's like a lot of benefits. These are the ones that I'm obviously going to try to shove down your throats, right? Productivity, code quality, project success. But there are also some other ones that are like the ones that I actually enjoy talking about, which are that if you're working on a team and you are working on your own code, when you start pair programming together, people are speaking out loud. And so you can get an easy temperature on how the team's doing, whether they're happy or not. If someone else is stuck because they have to talk to each other non-telepathically, you can hear them and you can maybe help in and jump in and say, hey, I heard you were talking about this. If you just, you know, clear your cookies or npm install, then you're gonna be fine. There's a lot of happiness that I've personally experienced and a lot of skill growth and sharing. I recently worked on a project in Go, but I don't know Go, but it doesn't matter because I'm pair programming. So I can still contribute, and they can teach me Go, and together we can still contribute code. And I'm learning Go while still being valuable to my project and to my company. And then there's career success. I don't know. It'll happen. So, all right. If you wanted to try pair programming, it would be ideal to figure out when it would be a good time to do that. So, finding the perfect condition. For me, and especially with a lot of the clients that we work with, having an isolated team with very few interruptions and meetings is kind of like the ideal case. And then you want to have buy-in to execute on priorities, and if you can, have a PM or design resource easily available. I'm not saying that you can Well, you know what I mean, right? These are the ideal conditions. Once you get that and you find the ideal case, you still need to get buy-in. And so buy-in means that you have to kind of convince people to do something that they don't want to do. I do this on a daily basis because we get clients in who come in and like their boss told them to work with us, but they are still not on board with pair programming with us. So this is what we try to do. We try to select a feature that's all hands on deck, which means that they can dedicate all their time with us. We try to introduce these concepts as an experiment. So we worked with a client and they are a gaming company. So they're like really not into this like rigid schedule that we have. We work 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And so you don't work after 6 p.m., wonderful life after that, but you do have to show up at the door at 9 a.m. And they were like, fuck no. So we were like, all right, why don't we just try this for a few days? They tried showing up at 9 a.m., didn't work, so then we kind of like iterated on that and we tried to find something that was better that would work for everyone. But at least they were willing to try, and so that's introducing the concept as an experiment. Looping the product owner in frequently. This is something that I am exercising very liberally right now with the project that I'm working on. And it's because the product owner has a lot of opinions and a lot of thoughts on what to do. And it's for good reason. It's because they've thought about this a lot, but they can't execute. So we try to loop them in. We try to have them for our retros. At the end of the week, we try to have them for our stand-ups, at least whatever they're willing to show up to. We want to show that we're iterating and we're building value, especially if you're trying pair programming. They like are not going to be on board necessarily, so you want to show what you're doing. And release early, often, and iterate. Not exactly a luxury for everyone, but something that we try to do. I'm not going to go into this slide too much, but if you're going to try pair programming, you need to know the opposition, and the list is endless, and these are just my favorite ones, where people don't want to do it. And I have a response to each one of these, and I've thought about them a lot. If you would like my answers, please come see me after. When it comes to your career, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It is really hard, especially like from two perspectives, right? When you're young and working in a company and you're trying to learn more and you're trying to grow, it's really hard to get people to share those skills with you if you don't get that one-on-one interaction. And vice versa, if you're going up and up higher, it's important for you to be able to delegate and to be able to trust the team that you're working with. Pair programming is a really good opportunity for you guys to groom the code base together, to grow together, and to share the knowledge base and exchange things. I work on a team where I just got off a team, but the team was 6 people, so I paired with someone different every single day of the week. So I got to learn everyone else's tips and tricks, and it was really fun. Big picture. So, this is, now that we've talked about like the nitty-gritty, the good opportunity of where to use it, I'm kind of going to step back and talk about where it's being done. So, for example, Pivotal Labs is like the only example I know of because I work there. This is an example of like how we do things. So usually we get a project with a client and we'll tell them to give their 3 developers and we give our 3 developers, and together we make a team of 6. So that means we begin pairing at the morning and then we exchange pairs every single day. So if you have a team of 6, you get to pair with 5 people, one every single day of the week. But we do more than that. We have a lot of supporting infrastructure in order to be able to make it work. And I think this is one of the reasons why at previous companies I didn't find that pair programming went well or didn't stick. And so we do test-driven development, we have a set schedule, we have retros, we have like very concise, independent, prioritized stories such that a lot of people can work in parallel, and we have a good way of showing when stories are linked to other ones, so there are dependencies. We have few meetings, we do continuous integration and deployment, and we try to hire for good pairs, so that means people who are empathetic and are willing to talk to each other and try new things. This is one of the reasons why I think I'm a lot more happier this time around than the ones in the past. And if it hasn't worked in the past, maybe some of these other things might help. So in particular, TDD, I actually tried this once. So I was pairing with someone and we tried not to test drive. And so we would sit at the computer and I would be like, all right, let's open this file. It's so awkward. it was like, I opened this file, and then he'd be like, wait, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I was like, going to start with the view. And he's like, oh, why are we starting with the view? We should start with the model. And like, it was just like really awkward, but when you start with tests, you pretty much agreed at that point on what you want to work on. And then you get to go and build the code afterwards. So it was like instantaneously palpable as to like why we needed that and why that was like facilitating us to work together. So this is actually, I wrote down all of my feelings after like 1 month working at Pivotal Labs. And these were my feelings. So in the beginning, I felt very uncertain. I felt like I was being a waste of time, and I felt really dumb. But on the flip side, I was really relieved for the first time ever that I didn't have to do code reviews where like I was trying to envision what my manager wanted, but not really sure. And then, you know, Judgment Day comes in and they're like, what the fuck is this shit? And I'm like, I'm so sorry, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm so new. So that was like really nice that I didn't have to deal with that anymore, and I felt a lot smarter on a day-to-day basis. So there was like two sides to the same coin. This is what helped. So I had structured, predictable breaks. Surprisingly, having more structure and system actually helped me out. And that was because I would get very saturated and exhausted, but I knew that there was a break coming up, so I wouldn't be checking my phone, I wouldn't be antsy anymore. And having feedback at the end of the day, I always felt like when I started pair programming that I was being the useless one, and they were just like talking at me and I was just absorbing all the information, and it made me feel like shit. But I realized by doing feedback at the end of the day that they did have some value out of it, and I got to hear that right away. And having positive, specific feedback as to why I was helpful made the entire interaction a lot more easy. So this is something that I try to practice, especially if I'm like working with someone for the first time, to have that feedback at the end of the day. Finally, I talked about TDD and like talking about what you're doing first, but even on a higher level, talking about the entire roadmap of what we might be doing for the day is really helpful when you're starting out. I'm almost done. So this is like the nitty-gritty, right? So some of the hardware, software, we do 1 computer, 2 monitors, 2 mice, 2 keyboards. We mirror our screens. We try to increase our font because not everyone has perfect vision. And I'm getting old, and I won't tell you how old I am, but I need larger font, so it's like kind of nice. We use Git Duet Commit. It's like a really cool tool where 2 people can commit on the same commit, and their names will both show up. And it switches your names. So like instead of showing one person then the other, they'll like automatically alternate back and forth. Getting a good IDE is really helpful. And Keycaster is a tool that we use to see like shortcuts and keystrokes, because a lot of the magic happens like when you're just like command shift whatevering on your IDE. And so it's really cool to see those keystrokes without having to ask someone every single time. The intangibles, we take turns. We actually do, so we do something called ping-pong pairing. And that is where one person will write a test, next person will commit the code, write the next test, someone else will commit the code, and it kind of goes back and forth where you have those 2 things in series, and then you switch back off. That's ping-pong pairing. We also take breaks where we play ping-pong. So that's really helpful. It just like makes things a lot easier. I have a back injury, so I play set, which is not as fun, but still good, and you can bond with your team that way. We try to have explicit time apart to catch up on emails and your personal life. And we've tried other things. So there's like mobbing, where you can have multiple people work on the same code base. And so we'll like book a conference room. It's really good if you like are trying to refactor a certain piece of your repo, or you are not aligned on certain ways of working. You can kind of get everyone into the room, put a timer on so everyone codes for every 5 minutes, you switch someone, and then you can get everyone recycling through your code base and consensus across the board. The last thing is that I feel as though people get really frustrated with pair programming because they're like, this is this brand new person and I don't like them and they work differently and this is really hard. But like, if you're making a new friend, you kind of just like gotta get used to it. It's not always easy, but it's worthwhile. And so a lot of people that I haven't liked initially were actually wonderful, and I don't know what I was thinking. So it was really nice. It just takes time. That's it. I just have some links and some resources. My slides are pinned on Twitter, so here's my handle under Neha.
a special thank you for getting your 30-minute talk down to 10 minutes. How was I on time? You were good.
Yeah, you're totally on time.
Yes.
I'm gonna go now.
So that's the last talk. Thank you again for coming.